Welcome to The Explainer. Today, we're going beyond the screen. We're going to break down the science of what really makes us feel connected in an online class. And, why that feeling is maybe more important than you'd ever guess. Okay, let's start with a feeling I bet a lot of us know. Have you ever been in an online class? You're logged in, everything's running, but you just feel invisible, totally disconnected, like you're just a name on a list, kind of looking in from the outside. Well, if that sounds familiar at all, you are definitely not alone. See, that feeling of isolation, it's not just, a minor inconvenience. It's actually a huge challenge in online education, and it really affects how well we learn. But here's the good news. Researchers have a name for the solution, for the antidote, really. They call it a sense of belonging.
So, what does that even mean, sense of belonging? What is it? Well, at its core, it's this feeling that you're actually valued, that you're included, that you're accepted. It's the feeling that you matter to the people in the class, your classmates, your instructor, and that you're a real, integral part of the whole thing, not just, watching from the sideline. And why does this matter? Oh, this is the really fascinating part. The research is absolutely clear on this. When students feel like they belong, their motivation just shoots up. They get more engaged, and get this, their actual achievement, their grades go up too. It's a total game changer.
Okay, so if it's so important, how do we actually create it? Well, a really big literature review looked at 12 different studies to figure that out. They wanted to know what really creates this sense of belonging. And what they found is that it breaks down into 3 key levels. So it turns out belonging isn't just one single thing. It's more like a puzzle, shaped by 3 big pieces. You've got your individual factors, that's all about who the student is. Then there are course factors, that's everything about how the class is designed and taught. And finally, you have environmental factors, basically the world happening outside the virtual classroom. Let's dig into that first one, individual factors. A student's personal background, their confidence, it all plays a huge role. For example, some studies found that female students in certain online STEM courses felt a lower sense of belonging. But on the other hand, students who did really well on their midterms, they felt a much higher sense of belonging. Same goes for students with something called competency belonging. That's basically just that inner feeling that, yeah, I've got this. I'm good at this subject. That makes a massive difference. But here's what's so cool about all this research. The single biggest impact, the place where we can make the most difference, actually comes from those course-level factors. This is where instructors have some real power to change things. And how do they do that? Well, it starts with something the researchers call a pedagogy of care. Now, that might sound a bit fluffy, but it's not just about being nice. It's a really intentional approach to teaching, where instructors make a point to recognize their students as actual, individual human beings. And this isn't just some vague concept either. It boils down to 4 really concrete things. First, you build relationships. You actually prioritize student-teacher connections. Second, you encourage real dialogue by creating a safe space for it. Third, you try to personalize the learning a bit. And fourth, you offer flexibility, bend the rigid rules. It's all about putting that human connection first. And there's even more in the instructor's toolkit. The research points to a whole bunch of other proven strategies. For example, making your live sessions truly interactive, not just a one-way lecture. Using small group interactions, like in breakout rooms. Even using cool video discussion tools. And hey, having learning assistants facilitate things helps a ton. Basically, anything that's designed to be interactive and intentional, it works. And then, of course, there's that third piece, the environmental factors. And no surprise here, the biggest one the research pointed to was the COVID-19 pandemic. I mean, that huge, sudden shift to online everything really threw this whole need for belonging into sharp relief. It showed us just how crucial that feeling of connection is when we can't be in the same room. Okay, so let's pull all this together. What does this actually look like in the real world? We can actually take these findings and build a kind of playbook for instructors. So what can an instructor actually do? Like today, what are the things they can put into practice right away to build that sense of belonging? All right, here's an action plan. For starters, look at your materials. Don't just stick to the textbook. Bring in TED Talks, YouTube videos, infographics, things that reflect more voices. When you use case studies, make sure they have diverse protagonists so more of your students can see themselves in the material. And you have to be direct about it. Actually talk about why an inclusive environment is important. And just be really careful and thoughtful in how you communicate. Okay, let's talk about something we all love to hate. The online group project, right? It can be such a challenge. Who's doing what? Is anyone even talking to each other? It's a classic headache, and honestly, it's why a lot of instructors just avoid them completely.
But, and this is a big but, it doesn't have to be a disaster. The research gives us a pretty clear roadmap for how to make it work. Simple things, really, like grade students individually on what they did, not just giving the whole team one grade. Use peer evaluations so everyone feels accountable. Be smart about how you form the teams to begin with, and require little progress reports along the way. If you do these things, group work can go from being a total pain to a really powerful way to build community.
So, this research is amazing, right? But like all good science, answering some questions just reveals new ones. It shines a light on what we don't know yet and where we need to go next. So, what's next? Well, there are some pretty big questions still out there. Like, how can we really get a handle on that competency belonging thing? Can we create a single consistent way to even measure belonging? And what about non-STEM fields, like the arts or leadership? How does this work there? Plus, how does belonging change over a whole semester? And maybe the biggest question of all, how in the world do you create belonging in a class that's fully asynchronous with no live meetings at all? And that really leaves us with a big final thought, doesn't it? As we keep building the future of education with all this incredible new technology, you have to wonder, is the future really about the tech? Or is it about finding new, better ways to use that tech to fulfill a really basic human need, the need to belong?